We'd like to welcome you out to the How to Get Your CGM in the Cloud. This is in regards to the Nightscout Foundation and all of the different ways the 15,000 people in our community have found to improve upon a system that began publicly back in April of 2014. We thought that we could probably get 50 people interested when there were about 5 families, and all of a sudden we were getting 1,000 people a month. So we realized this is a huge unmet need, and we're just about at the 15,000 family point. As we talk about Nightscout, as we talk about CGM in the cloud, there's going to be information and facts. Some of the information resides in my brain. Some of the information resides in my heart. If I start to get maybe a little misty-eyed as I'm talking, you'll be able to tell where this has impacted our family personally. Our son was diagnosed when he was 12 months old. He was severely hypo-unaware, or if by chance he was hypo-aware, he had not learned to communicate that to us yet. So we needed something different. We ended up with a Dexcom CGM, and with that CGM we were able to see trends, but it only reached 20 feet. So one of us, our bedroom was further away than 20 feet from his nursery. So one of us had to sleep halfway in between, or sleep in the nursery, and we had to take turns. We were no longer able to go out on date nights. We were no longer able to do a lot of things because he was medically fragile. T1 is just one of his diagnoses. He has several. And so this was a real challenge for our family. We made sure that we had the best and the greatest technology to care for him. We got a pump within the first 90 days. We got the CGM, and this was state of the art, they told us. Year after year, we had this little body mass, 18 pounds. That year, the Thanksgiving turkey was 21 pounds. So we had to administer, prior to the pump, just a little bit of insulin. This much, no, that would kill him. No, he's going to go hyper. So it was really difficult trying to manage this in a little toddler. And as he grew, it probably didn't get better until he was about 5 years old. But when he became 7 years old, my wife, who does a lot of diabetes research, helps a lot of families. She's admin on a lot of the diabetes online community groups and had been for 6 years. She actually diagnosed our son when the doctor said there was nothing wrong and everything was fine. She didn't believe it. She had done work in outreach groups with type 2 diabetes, and she knew some of the similar signs. So she took him into the ER, and they air evac'd him off to the children's hospital. His blood sugar was so high. And so that was 72 hours after the doctor pronounced him healthy. So there we have that. Our lives dramatically changed. They told us we'd never have normal again. We would have a new normal. And the new normal was whatever we were left with that diabetes didn't take from us. So my wife found a couple of families that were remotely monitoring the blood glucose in April of 2014. And she said, you have to look at this. And so I started asking her questions. And she said, no, I'm going to dump you into this group of a few families, and you're going to figure this out. This is your part of this. So before I met this group of 5 families, I knew one dad in the T1 community, one. And so I got in. About 4 posts in, I realized, oh my word, we have to have this yesterday. So we set up, I told my wife, I said, I have no idea what this is going to cost. It could be $1,000. I'm going to do it today. It ended up costing about $130. So it was extremely cost effective. But once we had these numbers in the cloud, we could now be more than 20 feet from our son. Now we could go on date nights. We even had an RN to care for our child previous to Nightscout. But he would drop so quickly between a 5-minute reading that it would freak out the nurse, because he could drop 65. He could be fine at 1:30 and all of a sudden, pow, he's having a problem. But we were able to, with Nightscout, we were able to monitor while we are on the date nights. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I know that when you have the parents in the same bedroom and regular date nights, that the family improves greatly. We just finished 30 years of marriage, and we really, really appreciate what Nightscout has given us. And so all of a sudden, all of these dads started coming out of the woodwork with Nightscout. We have thousands and thousands of mothers who were the fierce warriors keeping the children alive. Majority of all the caregivers were the moms. And that's probably the universe's way of keeping those kids alive, because the dads, there weren't a lot of dads around. But now with the Nightscout project, the dads had come out of the woodwork and were participating at a greater level. And one of the things that my wife said after we got this set up, and this is where it's a little closer to my heart, she says, you have to go out and you have to tell people about this. They have to know that there's an option, that they can have back a piece of what was taken from them. So we go out across the states, and this year it's our first time internationally. We were in Canada last week, and we were in the UK. And I personally really enjoy that because I'm a dual national with Canada and the States, and my grandparents come from Canada, and my great-grandparents come from England. So I'm like 71% English and 75% Canadian. So for us, it was a great opportunity. Anyways, going ahead in the slides, we're excited to be here. We've got our staff here. We've got Jesus Berrien from Spain. He is a creator of the Nightscout solution for Medtronic. It's wonderful to have him here. We've got Stuart Arnold from our UK group. We have Kate Groves also from the UK group. And then we have Tim and Kev. And these folks are specialists in a specialty for Canada and the UK called X-Strip, which is a solution for the folks that don't have share. Dexcom has decided not to send out share for whatever reason. And so that's a great disadvantage for these nations and large communities. So this is a wonderful opportunity today to hear about this, and then for the install session, we can sit down with you, help you set up, help you order parts. We can do one-on-one consults on what's the easiest and best way. We have some solutions that are 4 minutes, some solutions that are a little more involved, all depending upon what you're looking for. Our co-founder currently has a company that they're doing the artificial pancreas with. It's called Bigfoot Biomedical out of Silicon Valley. And he was the biggest cheerleader that this technology needed to not sit in the closet. Because there were people who had this technology, but they weren't saying anything about it. It was solving the problem for their family, but it wasn't solving the problem for the non-engineer families like myself. I would readily buy any of these solutions that didn't exist in the marketplace. And when he said we want our children to be safe and happy, and we know how to do it, we are not waiting. We can, we should, we will. And that's where the hashtag "We're Not Waiting" came from back in November 2013. This is our little guy at 12 months when he was diagnosed, and our little gal. And they lead the happiest little lives. No matter what's going on in their lives, they're an inspiration to me on, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. I can always have a happy demeanor like the two little role models I have. Our group, as I was saying, we were growing extremely rapidly. We, like almost every month, some months larger than others. And you'll notice there's a theme here. It's called paying it forward. Once you're set up in the cloud, we only have one request. The software's free, our time is free. The only thing you purchase is just the physical components from online or down at the electronics store. But it's that you pay it forward, is that you help someone else. Now, we have grandmothers in our community that are not technically inclined. They were able to successfully follow directions in a linear form, set up Nightscout. But they didn't feel that they could help people, perhaps in the tech support. So some of them gave family recipes that had been guarded in their families. And they never gave them out, but they shared them with the community as a token of how much that meant to them. And as you can see, that's information I carry in my heart. Right now, about a month ago, we hit 14,000 members, and our hashtag is We Are Not Waiting, but truly CGM in the cloud consists of Nightscout, consists of Medtronic Connect, consists of Dexcom Share, because it's whatever works for your family. Your family most likely is coming into this sleep deprived and without a lot of time, just dealing with type 1 diabetes. So we're looking to get you set up as fast as possible, and in anticipation that one day the industry would catch up, we called the group CGM in the Cloud. If you're not a member of that Facebook group, I recommend that you join that. It's your best one-stop shopping for all things diabetes. Whether you've got a rash under your sensor, whether you've got a question on how do I get the school administration to do things, there's going to be someone in the community of 14,000 that has passed through what you're going through. So it's a great, great resource. We have a whole bunch of people. The only reason they're on Facebook is just to join the group. As you notice that as this technology came out about 18 months ago, it's rapidly spread across the US and across Europe. And we now have about 16 individual countries. We just recently launched Russia. They're very rapidly growing also because we're all in this together. Diabetes does not discriminate on whose life it comes into and whose life it tries to destroy. So we're firm believers in an international solution, because if diabetes knows no boundaries, neither should the solution. This is Bulgaria. I love the Bulgaria group because nothing tells me more that this is an international solution than Bulgaria, because I have no idea what that says. They have only been in existence about three weeks officially, and they have like 400 members. We have the UK group is getting close to 700 members, and I absolutely love the UK group because it was one of the first groups who said, hey, do you mind if we have our own international group? Right now, there's an international support team of volunteers from Australia to the UK that work around the clock. When we start off in Australia, they go to bed, we go across the US, and then we end in Scotland. And so there's always someone available to help you set up. There's always someone available to answer a question. No questions are too small, no questions are too large. And Kate, she's from Canada. She does the Pebble design. She's a designer by trade. This is a quote from hers, that Nightscout is making her life better now. Not in 5 years, because we know that in 5 years there'll be a cure. Or 5 years from then, or 5 years from the other. I'm sure my grandchildren, perhaps my great-grandchildren, will greatly benefit from that. But until then, I want every little piece I can get back. I want every little technological advance that I can have. We have all kinds of different ways you can have appointments to set up. You can just ask a question in the group. We've got a lot of people just anxious to help you get set up. We do a lot of the weekend things. One of the things we found is we'd have appointments for people on the weekend, but before the weekend got there, they'd already be set up because of the support team around the clock. Go ahead. We have one group, many solutions. Whether it's Medtronic, whether it's Dexcom, we're only here because it didn't exist. As the feature set gets larger from Medtronic and from Dexcom, then we'll just add what they're missing, what we find valuable. And when that's finally gone, and the industry has the complete solution, we're going to play more football with our kids. These are the different solutions that have cropped up over the last 18 months from different engineers, different inventors. They all tie together. It's like a buffet. You can have as many or as few as you want. We were just in Canada. They had some pretty interesting scenery. I'm from California. We've been in a drought for 25 years. So when we flew into Heathrow and saw everything green, I took a lot of pictures. They probably thought I was a little crazy, but I was looking down, I was like, this is wonderful. Now, right now, we are the largest T1 related group on Facebook in the world. But the only difference it makes is the difference we make. So each one of us in this room, as you go forward, helping others set up, helping by just directing people to where they can go to find help. There's always a little thing that can be done we firmly believe in many hands make light work. And so that's why we are not waiting, and that's why we are grateful for the benefit that it has done for our children. And now, for the remainder of the presentation, we're going to have the UK group.
It's not in front of you, sort of words. Yeah, so this is just about what Nightscout means for me and why we decided to do it. So I was actually on a holiday. I went away for 2 nights and left my kids at home, my T1 at home with my husband, and went to Berlin. And I got a text from my brother saying like, oh, I've just seen something called Nightscout on the breakfast news. Have you heard of it? And I was like, no, what's that about? And Googled it there. And by the time I got back to the UK, I decided this is what we were going to do, so that we'd be able to see. And that was, we didn't have a Dexcom at that point. So the first job was getting a Dexcom. And then, we basically set up the Dexcom and Nightscout side by side from day one. And obviously the Dexcom's great, but Nightscout on top is what made the difference to us. The idea being that it's the minimal intrusion. It's the ability to let my little girl be a little girl. She's 5 years old. She knows she's got diabetes. She knows she can't eat everything. She knows she's not the same as the other kids. But I can manage her absolutely crazy BG levels from a little bit further back. So the best thing that I find is, I have my watch and it buzzes and I see that she's heading down and I can just pop over to her, give her a couple of glucotabs and send her on her way. She doesn't alarm, she doesn't go below, she doesn't get into the hyper rate, she doesn't have to sit down for 10 minutes and not do anything and wait for it to come back and then finger prick to see if she's back up and all that. We managed to stave off the hypos just by keeping an eye on things. And that's really where the glanceability comes in. I just look at my watch and know what she is immediately. And it's something that my driving instructor taught me when I was learning to drive. He said nothing should ever come as a surprise in your rearview mirror. You should be looking in your rearview mirror so often that truck that suddenly appears there, it didn't, because you saw it way off, you saw it approach, so that when it's right up behind you, that's not a shock. And that's what it is with a Pebble. You see things, it might be going horrifically wrong, but you've seen it going wrong for a little while, which generally will mean you've intervened earlier and you've sort of caught it. So although obviously it doesn't buzz until we get to some sort of alert, I tend to know where she's going. And so it means that I can sort of react faster. And I'm not, some people might argue with me that I'm not obsessively checking it all the time, but it just becomes like a kind of reflex. I'll log the number in my head without even really realizing what it is. So it just sort of becomes part of my life. And the biggest thing that it's given me is confidence. So I now have the confidence to allow her to do things. So she used to go to birthday parties, but I would stress all the night before. I'd stress all morning. I'd be so anxious and so worried about it and, not know what's going to happen. Is she going to be having a hypo when they're playing past the parcel, and will she not be able to take part because she's on the floor, So it's just the confidence that she can go and I'll be able to see things, that'll be fine. And actually, yesterday she went to the first birthday party without me. She did go with someone who like my best friend can sort her out and can treat her, but neither of us parents went. She went with somebody else. And that's a massive breakthrough for us. It's just being able to be confident with people who they can cope if it all goes wrong, but the day-to-day sort of managing, we can kind of keep an eye on it. So it just makes life so much easier and lets her get on with her life.
Okay, just out of curiosity, when your daughter was at the party, if she'd had a hypo, would you have run?
No, I would have left it for the person to check on.
So if you saw half an hour later it was still low, you would have run.
Yeah, exactly. And say what's going on and how is she.
Do you find it tempting to micromanage from afar?
No, but that's because I've gained the confidence in the people, and because I've given that. So the primary caregiver who's with Isla, her one-to-one at school, my best friend when she's got her, all wear a pebble. It's part of the standard kit and sort of thing that goes with my daughter. So I'm confident that if I'm getting it, they're getting it. Yeah. And so, yeah.
And how many pebbles do you have in your family?
Well, we've got quite a lot now because, funny enough, if something goes wrong with them and you tell Pebble, they send you a new one. Okay. And then something wrong with that one, they send you another new one. It's great.
So your husband, one for school, one for your daughter?
Yeah, so my husband's got the Pebble Time Steel, I've got the Pebble Time. We've got a regular Pebble for it's supposed to be for whoever's caring for her. We've got another Pebble regular time that the watch goes, does that funny screen thing every so often. So, of course, we've got a replacement for that. The replacement that came, everything's beautiful except backlight doesn't work, so we've got a replacement for that as well. So I've been paying them forward to families who can't afford them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And when you give your friend the watch, do you then have to install the app on her iPhone?
No, so I run that watch off Isla's phone.
Okay.
So her uploader phone.
Because that can be quite a thing, can't it? If I'm saying to somebody, you've got to install an app,
Yeah, no. So it's linked to her uploader phone.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea is that they ought to be within Bluetooth range of her phone if they're caring for her.
Okay.
So.
My vision about Nightscout is a little bit different. I'm a parent, but my child is not diabetic. I'm the one who is diabetic. There are two things of seeing Nightscout for me. One is, what I see about Nightscout is that it makes your life easier, a lot easier. As Kate said, mind, better auto-control if you are the diabetic or disability. This gesture is great. It's the best. And it's a great tool about learn about yourself if you're the diabetic. You know what you're doing, you have all the control in your hands. But I'm not a Nightscout user. I'm an engineer. And I have to be honest. When I started about the first step of MN Commander, I didn't know anything about Nightscout. It's a story about I was being selfish. I wanted it for myself. I wanted to build my artificial pancreas. That was my goal. I wanted to control myself. I didn't know about Nightscout. I didn't even know anybody with diabetes in Spain. Nobody, only me. So diabetes was my disease. But I remember one summer, I was with my wife, pregnant by that time, at the beach. And I was completely bored because I hate it. But well, I had my smartphone, so I could, Google things and said, well, let's look what's about diabetes in the world. And found an article about John Caustic. And I started reading it. Well, I started reading it because it said like hacker, hacked a diabetes device. I said, well, this is what I'm doing. Well, by that time, I already had hacked my pump, my Medtronic pump, but I didn't know anything about Nightscout, John Caustic, or anybody. So I started reading it and said, oh my God, there are kids with this disease. Okay, I was diagnosed when I was 19 years old. So for me, it's a disease for adults by that time. And soon I started thinking, okay, my wife's pregnant, and what happens if my kid is diagnosed with diabetes? How am I supposed to handle that? I don't know. I read all that I could about Nightscout, and that in that hour, I had to send an email to John Gostick. Okay, John, I know what you're doing. It's all about Dexcom, but I have this, and I think I cannot keep it for myself. It started for me, just for me, because I thought it was dangerous. Okay, these communications were plain, were not encrypted. There were lots of technical problems and lots of reasons to to release the code or anything, but I thought that it was worthy to, the risk and help people, help those kids, those families. Because if I had been one of them, most of you, if I knew that someone like me was doing that, I would love that that person would publish that and make my life easier. And that's what it did. It took me a while because, my design was like a little Frankenstein of boards and cables and, that geeky stuff. But I had to look for a platform that you may already know, that little board that you saw yesterday. And I had to migrate everything to that platform so that you could buy it and use it. After that, I had a problem. I have to make it work with a smartphone, because that platform was designed for a computer. It's a development tool. It's for an engineer, but you need smartphones. So I'm sorry, Java is it's not one of my skills. As talking in public, speaking in public is not one of my skills. So I work for an engineering company, and as soon as I got to my company, said, "Hey guys, I have this problem. Can you help me?" There are lots of Java programmers, hardware designers, mechanical engineers. I made a group of five engineers who work during the nights with any relation with diabetes at all, who helped me to do that. And finally, this is what we did. So my story about Nightscout is everything started like, selfishness, and ended up like this. And I'm happy about it. And this is my story.